The other day I went to Andalusia and I talked about the old Andalusia Covington County Jail. It was supposedly haunted. It was really one of the first videos where I've been able to get out and do some things throughout this whole COVID-19 thing, other than going to the doctors and stuff like that. And I had a lot of fun doing it. So, we're gonna do it again today, but we're not in Andalusia. I'm on the other side of Op, a little ways away, to another town called Elba, Alabama, who has an old county jail full of history and full of reports of paranormal activity. At first, I guess I'll, just like in Andalusia, I'll talk a little bit about the town, and then we'll go over to the old jail and see what's left. Before I get into talking about Elba, Alabama and the haunting of the old county jail over there, did you all know I went to the doctor yesterday, which I have to do every week? And yes, this week was like all the rest of them. I got awoken this morning with a god-awful pain in my leg, and I had to get up and take some Tylenol. Maybe I took ibuprofen, maybe. But I had to get up and do something about it. It always happens the day after my doctor's appointments that it just wakes me up. It hurts so bad. I don't know why. At any rate, today, like I said in the intro, we're in Coffee County. We are in Elba, Alabama. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about the town first. Now, Elba has been around since the 1800s. It wasn't always called Elba, though. There is a unique story behind why it is called Elba now. Just outside of the town is this area. This is called the Pea River, like PEA, like a split pea soup or something. PEA, you get it. Unfortunately, the only walkway right here over the Pea River, it's a little tiny space, so the cars are like really close, flying up beside me. Now I've come out here and started off with the Pea River because it plays a big part of Elba's history. Elba was actually formed in the 1830s over here on this side of the Pea River, but this Pea River floods very easily. The first major flood of the Pea River happened in 1865, and they named it the Lincoln Flood because it happened shortly after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Another devastating flood occurred in 1929, and the river crested at a depth of 43.5 feet, completely engulfing the town. And then after it flooded several more times. However, they weren't quite as bad. In 1938, 1959 and 1975, the town was engulfed in water. Just not quite as bad. The worst flood ever recorded in Elba's history happened in the year 1990, when the river crested at 48 feet. Incredible. Elba was completely flooded. It was completely underwater for 4 entire days. The town was pretty much destroyed. It was a major disaster for this town.
Worse, electricity is still out for much of the Elba area. Still, the local sheriff says optimistically the town of Elba will recover from the multi-million-dollar damage, just as it did from a similar devastating flood in 1929.
In 1930, they moved the city of Elba, which at that time was called Bridgeville, Alabama. They moved it across the river, and they built giant levees all the way down to prevent it from flooding anymore. Incredible. This entire town of Elba is surrounded by these giant levees. You see, if it does get to the point where the water is rising again, and the water gets up to this level and begins to threaten to enter the city, they have this giant door inside of this thing here. they would roll it out, roll it across these tracks here on the ground. It would lock in up here in this mechanism and seal up against this rubber here. They could seal off the city just by pulling that contraption across. It would just go right across the road, seal up behind this, and keep the water out. Keep it from flooding Elba, Alabama. I've been trying to get that one scene about that levee for 10 minutes, but cars keep coming by making all kind of racket. Well, now that I have finished, there's not a car in sight. There's not a car in sight. Sometime shortly after moving across the river, they held a raffle. They let people choose the name for which the city would be called. It was no longer going to be called Bridgeville. So they had a contest where they allowed people to submit names, and they would basically draw a name out of a hat. One guy suggested the name Elba. He had just got done reading a book on Napoleon Bonaparte, and if you know anything about that, you know Napoleon was exiled to Elba Island, which gave that person the name Elba popped in their head, and he submitted it. They drew Elba out of the hat, and that was it. Elba, Alabama. I've actually never been here, and I've lived in Alabama a long time, my whole life, and I've never been to downtown Elba before, but it's pretty cool looking. Welcome to Elba. This is the downtown square of Elba, with the courthouse right here in the center. I'm gonna get on with the for real topic of this video today, but I wanted to, you know, kind of show you a little bit of this area. Now, I saw this off in the distance, which is why I came this way. This is probably the first time I've ever seen this before. It was an old high school here. They tore it down, but they left like the front entrance here for like the entrance to a park. They built this nice elaborate park here. The guys over here that were cutting the grass, they told me that the school's been torn down quite a few years now, but a lot of it was reused. Well, they said that what's interesting now is a teacher, a woman who used to teach like social studies in this high school that no longer sits here, now lives in this building. This is her house. This is where she taught her class. And when they tore it down, she fixed it up and turned it into her house. And that brings us back here to this back road where the actual building that I came to see is sitting. This is the Old Elbe Jail. This is actually pretty interesting. This placard says, former governor of Alabama, Jim Folsom, owned this property right here beside the jail. But this is the building of the day, the Old Coffee County Jail, the Old Elbe Jail, however you want to look at it. This building has been here for decades and decades, and paranormal experiences have been reported out of it for decades and decades. In 1979, right here underneath this front archway, Sheriff Neil Grantham was shot and killed right here on this top step. He was walking outside of the jail with another prisoner when a former inmate named Billy Magwood was waiting outside. As soon as the sheriff walked out, Magwood opened fire. But this building, this jail, was actually still in operation up until 1990, when everything flooded here. All of this was underwater and the jail flooded, and at which point they shut her down. They built a new jail just outside of town, and this has sat here abandoned since 1990. As you can see, there is no door on the front of it, so we're going to wander in here and check it out. They have had paranormal investigators come in and check out this building. And they've gotten a bunch of sightings. In fact, just like what happened to me out at the cemetery I was at the other day, the paranormal investigators' cameras all shut off and died while they were here. And I guess it's important to note that throughout this jail's history, there's been numerous amounts of reports of hangings, murders, suicides. The jail was infamous. Oh, look. I guess this was a hallway for, man, at least these guys, whoever was bunked in these, would have been able to see outside here. Guard! Guard! I didn't do it, I tell you. I'm innocent. I'm an innocent man. Jesus, you just don't get any privacy around here. One thing I noticed is their beds were right here, but then right here in front of them would have been their toilet sticking out. It would have covered this area. There's their button to flush it. They would have had like this piece of metal, almost like a mirror right there. And this was their sink. They virtually had no room in here at all. I mean, there was no room. And then they had to go number 2 or number 1 right here by the bars so anybody could see them right next to the window, instead of putting it over here in this little cubby to give them somewhat of a little bit of privacy and a tiny bit more room. They stuck it here. Oh God, good God. Man, that's stiff. You don't find these places sitting open like this too often. They're always shut down and blocked off. Ooh. Look at that. What happened in here? There is an upstairs up here, so we'll go up here and check it out. There is. Wow. I don't know if these were like individual partitions for different cells, or if this was just like one open room and they had a bunch of bunks up here or something. Look at that lead-based paint. Asbestos. Maybe it could have been showers, or I don't know what it was. I don't know what they had up here. It's just like one giant room, but you could tell there was something. It's incredible to see the inside of this place. I'll have to look around and see if I can find some pictures to see what was up here. I know that there has been some spooky stuff happening here. That paranormal investigator team that I was talking about, when they came, they parked their cars outside. They left their cell phones in their cars. When they got back out to their cars, they picked up their cell phones, and while they were in here, their cell phones called each other. So like the husband's called the wife's phone, and the wife's phone called the husband's phone, and their cell phones were out in their car. Nobody was touching them, but they called each other back and forth a couple of times without anybody touching them. Which, that's really freaky. That's it. That is the Old Elbe Jail, the old Coffee County Jail. Absolutely amazing that we got to go inside and check it out. You know, a lot of places you don't get to do that, but that is gonna do it for this episode from Elba, Alabama, and the Old Elbe County Jail. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, if you want to help support the channel, check out the links down in the description box below. Not only is it a big help, but it helps fuel our adventures. It gets us to more places like this and others. You can also help by going down below to Teespring and purchasing you a t-shirt. I do get a couple bucks from each shirt that's sold. That helps as well. Thank you all. I will see you again tomorrow. I got another special trip planned for tomorrow. It's gonna be fun. I hope you all have a great day. Please stay safe and stay healthy.